All right, so today we're diving deep into mental manipulation. And we've got Darren Brown's Tricks of the Mind
Mm.
as our guide.
Oh, yeah. He's
Yeah,
fascinating.
he's known as this magician illusionist, right?
Yeah.
Somebody who can kind of like bend reality. But he's really so much more than that.
Absolutely. I mean, he's really a student of human behavior. Before he was this mind bender, he studied law and hypnotism, even hosted his own TV show.
Exactly. So we're not just talking like pulling rabbits out of hats here. It's about the psychology of persuasion, how our minds can be, well, kind of tricked. There's this story Brown tells about a psychic who claims she got burned by a client's super hot wedding ring.
Oh, yeah, she was convinced it was glowing red hot. But then the client's like, nope, never heated that thing.
Crazy, right? And the thing is, she didn't doubt her abilities at all. She called it a psychic burn, which is just wild.
Classic example of confirmation bias.
Confirmation bias.
Yeah, it's like this tendency we have to look for information that already supports what we believe, even if it means twisting the truth or ignoring facts.
We'll see what we want to see, basically.
Exactly. And it kind of makes you think, how often do we just accept things without really questioning them?
Yeah, it's a bit unsettling when you think about it.
It is. It's why understanding these things, these little psychological tricks, is so important. It's all about self-awareness, realizing how easily we can be influenced.
Okay, so, like, Brown's famous for misdirection,
Yep.
right? But it's more than just smoke and mirrors. In the book, he uses this coin trick to show how misdirection really works.
It's brilliant, actually.
So walk us through it.
All right, so imagine there's a coin on a table right in front of you. Brown tells you to reach for it with your dominant hand, just a natural, relaxed movement. But here's the thing, you don't actually pick it up.
Okay, so I'm pretending.
Exactly. You go through the motions like you're grabbing it with your thumb and index finger.
Like I've got the coin.
Yeah, and while you're focused on your hand, Brown's using subtle cues, his body language timing, to shift your attention away from the coin itself.
Icky.
He calls it a double take. You pick up the coin, look at your empty hand all surprised, and then back at the table where the coin still is.
So he hasn't palmed it away yet.
Not yet. This is where it gets good. He repeats this whole thing a few times. Sometimes he actually picks up the coin, sometimes he pretends.
Ah, I see. He's creating a pattern.
Exactly. Your brain's seen the coin picked up, seen the empty hand, so it expects that to keep happening. So when he finally does palm the coin away, you're already set up to be fooled.
Wow, that's amazing. So our brains are basically filling in the gaps, creating a story that isn't real.
That's it. Mental manipulation isn't about mind control or anything. It's about understanding these little cracks in our perception, the ways our brains make sense of the world.
So how does this translate to everyday life? I mean, we're not all running into master magicians every day.
Well, think about it. These same ideas, misdirection, suggestion, using our biases, they're used all the time, not just by magicians, advertisers, salespeople, politicians. They all use these tricks to kind of sway us.
You're saying we're constantly being manipulated even if we don't know it.
In a way, yeah. But it's not about being paranoid. It's about being aware. When you recognize these tactics, then you can make better decisions.
So knowledge is power. Got it. But how do we actually spot these techniques in real life?
Brown has some great examples in the book. He talks about this experiment where he made people think a boring lecture was super interesting.
Hold on, how do you do that? Did he like hypnotize them or something?
Nope. No hypnosis. Just subtle cues, positive reinforcement, and good old group dynamics. Imagine you're in this lecture hall, the speaker's droning on about some technical topic.
Oh yeah, I've been there.
Right. You're fighting to stay awake. But then you see a few people nodding along, taking notes, looking really engaged. And Brown, who's planted in the audience, is reacting positively too, laughing even if the jokes aren't funny.
So he's kind of like planting seeds of positive responses.
Exactly. And then as more people start doing it, you get pulled in too.
Yep.
You start thinking, maybe I am missing something. Maybe this is interesting.
Wow. So we can be influenced by the people around us. That's powerful.
It's called social proof. We look to others for cues on how to behave, especially in situations we're not sure about. If everyone's saying something's great, we're more likely to believe it, even if it feels off.
So knowing about social proof is one way to avoid being manipulated. What else should we look out for?
Brown gets into nonverbal communication, all the subtle things we do without realizing it. He calls it unconscious communication. Body language, micro-expressions, those little things that give away our true feelings.
Like when someone says, I'm fine, but their jaw is clenched and they're avoiding eye contact.
Exactly. Brown teaches you to spot a fake smile, read someone's posture, decode those little tells.
It's like learning a whole secret language of human behavior.
And like any language, it takes practice. But Brown gives you tools in the book. like mirroring, subtly matching someone's posture and tone to build trust.
Isn't that what therapists do?
Yeah, therapists, salespeople, hostage negotiators. It works because it taps into our need for connection.
So we've got confirmation bias, social proof, unconscious communication, mirroring.
Yeah.
Anything else to add to our arsenal?
We can't forget Memory Brown spends a lot of time on that. How to improve it, how to remember names lists, even complex information.
Right. There was that section on creating mental images.
Exactly. It's about making connections, linking information to something concrete, like the linking system. If you need to remember milk, eggs, bread, you might picture a carton of milk cracking open and there's eggs inside a loaf of bread.
That's weird. But I guess it would work.
The weirder the better. It sticks in your mind. Brown also talks about the memory palace. You map information onto familiar places like your house.
Like a mental filing cabinet.
Yeah.
That's cool. So anyone can learn these techniques.
Oh, yeah. It's about training your brain to think differently, see connections you wouldn't normally see.
Makes you realize our minds are capable of so much more than we think.
And that's a big part of Brown's message. We can learn, grow, achieve incredible things if we challenge our assumptions and find new ways of thinking.
Okay, so we've covered a lot. We talk about how mental manipulation works, how to spot it, and even how to boost our own memory. What else is there to dig into? We've been talking about influence, persuasion, entertainment. But what about like the ethics of all this? When does persuasion cross the line into manipulation?
Yeah, that's the big question. And it's something Brown wrestles with in the book. He talks about how powerful these techniques can be, especially in stage hypnosis. If they're not used responsibly, things can get kind of messy.
He tells this story about a woman who was in one of his stage hypnosis shows. And afterwards, she reached out to him and said she felt really distressed. Like her agency was violated. She felt manipulated, used for entertainment without really consenting.
That experience really affected Brown, made him question the ethics of stage hypnosis and using these techniques for entertainment in general.
Makes you think about consent, right?
Yeah.
Just because someone agrees to be in a show doesn't mean they fully grasp what might happen to them psychologically.
Exactly. It's about responsibility. As influencers, persuaders, even just as people, we got to use these techniques ethically with awareness and compassion.
There's this other part where Brown talks about a company that wanted to hire him for a team-building exercise.
Yeah.
They wanted him to hypnotize employees and make them do silly stuff.
And Brown was like, nope, not doing that.
Yeah. He felt it was wrong to exploit people like that, even if it was just for fun.
It shows his integrity, right? Just because we can influence people doesn't mean we always should.
So maybe that's the biggest takeaway from all this, understanding mental manipulation. Isn't about becoming some master manipulator. It's about recognizing the techniques, understanding the psychology behind them, and then using that knowledge responsibly.
Exactly. It's about self-awareness, how we influence others and how we're influenced.
It's about understanding the human mind, its power and its weaknesses.
Brown doesn't give us easy answers, but he does leave us with some big questions to think about. Like, how much are we willing to question what we believe to challenge our assumptions and really explore the mysteries of the mind? That's how we'll get a deeper, more compassionate understanding of ourselves.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into tricks of the mind, I'm left with a sense of awe and a good dose of skepticism. It's like we've peeked behind the curtain, seen how the strings are pulled, and realized the world's a lot more complex than we thought.
Definitely. And maybe that's the real magic, being able to see the world with fresh eyes, to question what we know, approach life with curiosity and wonder.
Well said. Thanks for joining us on this journey, and until next time, keep those minds open.